President Trump, at the same time, is working to help eliminate U.S. Agency for Global Media. I proved and showed when I had my hearing a few weeks ago that not only is it a colossal waste of taxpayer money, when it comes to our grantees, Radio Free Europe, Radio Free Asia, OTF, Middle East Broadcasting Network, they won't even show us where they're spending the money. We're funneling hundreds of millions of dollars into those outlets. I showed how Radio Free Europe almost hired 20 Russian spies. They were this close to hiring them. Without a tip, they would have hired 20 Russian spies. Only imagine what could have happened then. And we've shown that at Voice of America, we have no editorial control. They won't allow the management to have any editorial control. However, at the VOA Mandarin studios, they were meeting regularly with the CCP officials at the Chinese embassy in Washington, D.C., asking them for input in how VOA should be covering.
This is very fascinating to me. I only don't have a lot of time. What do you mean there's no oversight on the editorial?
There's an editorial firewall that prevents folks such as myself, who's in a top management position, from being able to call the newsroom and say, hey, you need to make sure we're covering America's story and not being anti-American.
What if they're out there saying stuff that's, anti-United States propaganda garbage, like the socialist mayor in New York wannabe? You can't tell them to cut the crap?
Nope.
Well,
I can't.
How do you change the narrative? How do we make sure that we have pro-America types, obviously all sides represented, but how do we make sure that we don't have propagandists in there?
They slipped this editorial firewall into an NDAA piece of legislation a few years ago and took away all of our editorial control so they could go totally rogue in the newsroom and cover pro-CCP, pro-Iranian regime, anti-American stories, which, by the way, they have. And I can't pick up the phone, or top, political, appointee can't pick up the phone.
Can you fire these folks? Can you put your own people in?
It takes a lot of time. If you've ever tried to fire someone in the federal government, it's not easy.
We got a guy who knows how to do that. You're fired. He knows how to get Trump in there and clean that. VOA is very important. Go ahead.
We've shrunk down the agency by 85%, but this is another reason that editorial firewall needs to be eliminated. And this is a reason I believe we need to shrink it down and take what's left and put it under the State Department. The last time it was effective at telling America's story was when it was under the purview of the Department of State. Secretary Rubio, he can't even pick up the phone and call VOA if they were doing something anti-American and say, stop it. Or they could sue him.
Could Trump?
No, Trump couldn't either.
Wow.
This is how ridiculous it is. So the agency needs to be eliminated. President Trump's right. We've shrunk this down and we've right-sized it to where it's just what is statutorily required. President Trump has called for the elimination of the agency starting in the next fiscal year, which is October 1st. And I'm working very hard to make sure that happens. We don't need this out-of-control bloat, this relic of a news operation which used to tell America's story and now is more likely to be telling an anti-American story. It's time for this relic to go. And it's time for us to modernize and actually use our abilities to reach the world through other methods to tell our story than an old 1990s style TV that nobody is watching.
We want you to bring the story as that progressive. Let us know how things go, and we support you all the moves. You're the right person in the right place. Kari Lake, thank you so much.
Thanks, Sarah.